Of course. Let's explore different API authentication methods, including API keys, OAuth, and JWT, JSON Web Tokens. 1. API keys. API keys are a straightforward method of authentication used to identify and authorize API consumers. The process generally involves the following steps. The API provider generates a unique API key for each client. The client includes the API key in API requests, typically as a header or query parameter. The server verifies the API key to authenticate and authorize the client's access to the requested resources. API keys are commonly used for simple authentication scenarios, but may lack some advanced security features. 2. OAuth. OAuth, Open Authorization, is a widely adopted protocol for delegated authorization. It allows users to grant limited access to their resources to third-party applications. Here's a high-level overview of the OAuth flow. The client, third-party application, registers with the OAuth provider, authorization server, and obtains a client ID and client secret. The user is redirected to the authorization server to authenticate and grant permission to the client. Upon successful authentication and authorization, the authorization server issues an access token to the client. The client includes the access token in API requests to access protected resources on the user's behalf. The server verifies the access token to authenticate and authorize the client's access to the requested resources. 3. JWT, JSON Web Tokens. JWT is a compact and self-contained token format that can be used for authentication and authorization. It consists of 3 parts: header, payload, and signature. Here's a brief overview of the JWT process. The client authenticates with the server using their credentials. Upon successful authentication, the server generates a JWT containing relevant user information and signs it. The client receives the JWT and includes it in subsequent API requests as an authorization header. The server verifies the signature of the JWT to authenticate and authorize the client's access to the requested resources. It's important to note that API authentication methods may vary depending on the specific requirements, security considerations, and the capabilities provided by the API provider. Other methods, such as basic authentication or OpenID Connect, may also be worth exploring based on your needs. I hope this provides you with a general understanding of API authentication methods. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask.